Oh, I got a new guest. I see you in the back. We talked to you before. This is Run Boston Bear. Run Boston Bear is one of those guys like me. He kind of like looks at the Bible, and when the Bible says that the earth was created, Run Boston Bear kind of goes, yeah, I kind of think the earth was created. And you guys know me. I'm not an Old Testament doctrine follower. Run Boston Bear apparently espouses more of an adherence to the Old Testament. And the four-letter deity referenced in the Old Testament, loosely referred to as Yahweh. And although I cannot espouse the same doctrine and beliefs, I do resonate very strongly with those understandings. So I always like talking to people who kind of understand a realm that was created. When they say, yeah, when God created the realm, created the world, God created the world. God didn't create a big bang billions of years ago and then step back and say, good luck, I set everything up. I wrote the code, I wrote the equation, now play it out. No. Anyway, I don't want to speak for him anymore. Run Boston Bear, welcome back to Z Show. Good to see you.
Hey, good morning, Z. How are you?
Quite well. How are you, good sir?
Doing well. Got the kids dropped off at school, and I'm about to hit the gym at 9:30, so I got a couple minutes to burn. I wanted to say good morning. I heard you talking about empaths, and I say that I've always been very empathetic, even to a detriment. Like in high school, I just got bullied for being too like loving and caring and open, and I jumped, like I didn't ever click with one group. I loved everybody, jocks, nerds, special needs classes, all the ethnicities. I just kind of flowed throughout the campus and tried to connect with everybody. And people like thought that was like threatening to them because I didn't have my little huddle that I stayed in. And then I was a point of contention, I guess, or attack.
Well, interesting. Well, because people they just follow the norm, the social norms. So I find that when anyone goes outside, whatever the normed behavior is, they receive some type of pushback. Right? It's almost a program that people are running, and that could be seen to me all across society. Is that when somebody breaks the programming, it glitches the program out, right? So they'll respond as so it's like, what group are you in? You're not in any group. You talk to the jocks and the theater people and the nerds and the spazzes and the geeks and the this and you're like, people don't know how to handle that. It's funny you say that. I had a very similar experience in high school. I was kind of the guy who I made my way through all the different groups, they say, what is it, like jack of all trades, master of none. I was not really endeared to any specific group, but I can make my way. I can go to this party. I can go hang out with like the woodsy kind of kids, the kids that were in shop class, the kids that only did a half day in school and then went to the tech school and they were like rebuilding motors. I'd hang out with them like at a bonfire. But then the next night I would go hang out with like the jocks because I played sports. And then the next night I would be with the band people. So I was kind of like that too, man. And there's, like you said, empath, but you made a statement. You said you were empathetic to a detriment. And that's the point I was trying to make to Heidi, is that there's consequences of it because it shows a lack of boundaries when you're too open and you're resonating on others' emotions. I think some people are more genetically predisposed or even spiritually predisposed to resonate with others' emotions. But I think it's a form of escapism at a certain point because sometimes you lose the boundary between your emotions and theirs. And if you're highly empathetic, if you're around certain people, you then begin to experience their emotions. But that's not yours. It really, really has nothing to do with you. That's theirs. And I often find that people who are highly empathetic must practice certain techniques that involve grounding and, again, constructing energetic, psychic, and conscious boundaries where they can then realize the emotion, but understand that it's separate from them so they don't become subject to somebody else's reality. Because that's not fair to do to yourself. It's actually a form of, it's probably a form of some type of punishment to oneself. Go ahead, floor's yours.
Oh, thank you. No, that's good points. if I take it back to when we were kids, we just take it back to the little versions of ourselves. Um, I didn't have a goal of wanting to go to all these groups to talk to them to comfort me. Like authentically and legitimately, I wanted to love all sorts of different people. Like I found interest in all types of different people, and I had a gift, if you will, of if someone's having a bad day, or if they're just not really vibing, in a healthy manner, I could extract out of them their best qualities and lift up the good in them and kind of help them separate what is tearing you down, what is a false belief, oh, that's not true. Because if you think about grade school and high school, we were almost programmed to have self-esteem issues and not get the grade and or not perform the way the school system wanted us to perform. And it was like they were breeding a massive group of people to kind of be unsure yourself unless you're getting the grade and you have all the best friends and you're popular. You're kind of questioning, well, who am I and how do I fit into the world? And that was one of the biggest struggles for me for like 20 years was, who am I and how do I fit into this world? Because being empathetic and being that outgoing, loving guy, and then being like, you're gay, you're the gayest person I've ever seen. And I'm like, whoa, why are these jocks thinking because I have emotions and because I want to love everybody, that means I'm gay? It was a real weird deal. So then I set out on an adventure of like, okay, I'll show you how straight I am, and became kind of like a player. Two girlfriends or three girlfriends at a time, trying to date the hottest chicks. And it was like to prove my straightness, which is just totally wild. But it can be a wild journey to navigate the who am I in this world and how do I fit in. But finding, as you said already, finding the Messiah 14 years ago, and then finding the true earth, like flat earth. And now I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I'm a man that gets to ask questions. I can meditate or think on anything. No, I don't need your opinion. I don't need your thoughts on this. I get to look into this because I'm alive and I'm free. Anyway, just kind of rambling, but I'm glad that you came through that whole period and now you got this show. I've listened for a while and you bring a lot of light to the world and a lot of hope and truth. So keep rocking.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you saying that, dude. And some of the things I could expound on. What you brought up about one's identity, right? So there was a standard created for you, a standard that you felt as though you needed to live up to. Like you were somehow short. You were coming up short of some standard, some artificial standard that affected your behavior, right? And that's the trick of the system, is because I always say it over and over again, that it builds an identity for you that's often counter to your true self. And it creates a situation in which people feel as though they need to live up to certain standards. But oftentimes these standards are unachievable because they're unrealistic. Because how could you be all things at once? The system tells you you need to be, like you said, the real macho guy, but at the same time also be soft and empathetic, not too macho, not toxic in your masculinity. The system tells you need to be smart, but not too smart, right? Because then you're kind of like a know-it-all. The system creates this impossible standards that nobody can live up to. And I think you kind of alluded to that also, is that, you can't be all things to all people at all times. So what is the rational course? The rational course is to just be yourself. Mm-hmm. So many people have issue with that because we're told that we're somehow not good enough in so many ways, whether it's overtly or covertly. We're being presented with information that says we are not good enough if we are this or that or the other thing. And I always say this, it is our individualistic identity. It's our own personalities. It's our unique traits and characteristics that actually are our strength. Because if you have people who are existing together in communal and family units, it is those differences that serve to create a stronger whole. You don't want everybody being the same when you're working together. It's actually beneficial to have unique characteristics. Let's look at a traditional concept of a tribe. You would want certain people that are, let's put it this way, a child who would be classified today as, say, with attention deficit disorder or operational defiant disorder. They can't sit at the desk and pay attention to the teacher all day. They're antsy. That child would make a great hunter, a great warrior, because as they were sitting in there waiting to hunt their prey, their lack their lack of focus, or I should say their ability to hyper focus and be aware of their surroundings, is a benefit. What do they do to these kids now? They tell them there's something wrong with them. They're not meeting a standard. That being said, again, if you're in a tribe and say you have another ability, say your ability is with, I don't know, communication, you may serve as a leader, an elder in the tribe. My point is, when we exist in what I see a more natural state of man, these unique qualities are our strengths, but we see the complete opposite. We're seeing people being formed and coerced into some homogenous, amalgamized version of what it is to be a man or a woman. I think it's on purpose, and I think it's one of the big reasons we see so much dis-ease and so much psychological dysfunction. Can you speak to that? I mean, you're a father. How do you approach that with your children? Knowing you have kids, you have a personality, your wife has a personality, but your kids have their own unique, distinct personalities that may have nothing to do. It's almost like they are children of creation, born into this world whole with their own God-given characteristics. Why would we change them? Go ahead, floor is yours.
Definitely. So I've got a 7, 5, and 3-year-old, and what my wife and I want to do is we're creating a home where they're comfortable to explore their artistic side, music, play, laughter, imagination, and we're not swift to swing in with just all these rules. Like we give them as much slack on the rope as they can possibly handle, but they are not to physically harm each other. No biting, no hitting, no whapping in the head with toys. Immediately that they understand that that's like a swift, you're in serious trouble. Like you cannot hurt your siblings. You can pretend, but physical harm isn't allowed in this home. And then my wife and I, our whole marriage of 10 years, we don't do the like passive aggressive. A lot of married people will like joke with their spouse in a condescending or a cutting way, a little bite here and bite there.
Oh,
But
yes.
that
Yep.
kind of stuff adds up and actually wounds the other person. So
It does.
I'm not trying to say like we got it all figured out, but we've been married 10 years and have never walked away from each other, never raised our voices at each other, never slammed the door, none of that stuff, just because we've painted for ourselves a world where communication is key, communication in love and in truth. And, if I told you about my transition from thinking the world was a globe into what is this creation? Let me look into it. That was actually one of the wedges we had to get around because she thought I had lost my mind. And
I'm going to say this, RunBostonBear. Women, particularly women that are younger, meaning to say, I find women who are more in their 50s and 60s are able to understand this. Women tend to be very resistant to this understanding only because I think by nature, biologically, they are programmed to go along with consensus due to the aspect of being a mother and having a maternal responsibility. I think it is in their nature to follow the consensus because it is adaptive and it increases their survival ability. Do you understand what I'm saying, RunBostonBear? That by nature, women who are especially biologically viable for reproduction tend to naturally resist any ideas that go against common consensus. That's why I don't blame young women for not understanding these things. I blame society because I think these are for men to understand. And I think leadership roles are for men because of this. This is why I disqualify women from being able to participate in leadership roles over men because of this, because I think by nature they are intrinsically programmed to go along with consensus for survival and the survivability of their offspring. Your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. Well, the really unique thing is I'm a stay-at-home dad with these kids, and she offered me the opportunity to either pursue professional athletics, like triathlon and marathon, and just see how far I could go as like a master's pro, or, hire somebody to raise our kids. And, that would be what would happen if we went that route. Or, she's like, or would you want to, give your hand at raising them yourself or staying home with them? And I was like, man, I never thought about, being a stay-at-home dad. I went to college for business, and I was a hotel manager, of a pretty large hotel chain. And, but I said, you know what? I don't like the idea of someone else raising our kids. Like, if they're at school all the time and then we've got this nanny, well, who's really pouring into them? So I took the job, and I've been a stay-at-home dad for 8 years now. And she's a physician, and the military put her.
Oh, she's a physician. Oh boy.
But let me get this story full circle, because it's going to blow your mind. She's a physician. The military put her through med school. She did 8 years active duty service. So if you think about indoctrination, like her degree in biology and then the med school and then the military, it's just like cram, 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 respect authority, listen to authority, follow the rules. So when I found out, wait a second, outer space is just a fantasy land story. It's like basically Star Trek for adults. It's not what, where we live and what's up there is not what we were told when we were 5. Her knee-jerk reaction was to trip out. And her main question for me for like,
of course,
her main question for me for 2 months was, why are you being so countercultural? I don't get why you would be so countercultural.
Right.
But I told her, look,
this is my point. This is the point I've been making. Go ahead, continue.
I said, I'm not trying to be crazy. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm literally just wanting to look into what is the truth.
You want the truth, truth, regardless of consequence, regardless of consensus, countercultural. That's what see how her primary concern was to go along with the culture. Mm-hmm. Your primary concern is for the truth. Mm-hmm. I contend, Run Boston Bear, that this is due to our biology. Go ahead, continue. This is a wonderful topic. Please keep going.
It really has a great ending too. So I realized quickly that I didn't realize how freaky it was to figure out all the deceptions. Because when you are told the Earth is stationary and not rotating, and that the luminaries move over top of us, you have to try to digest that. And as you're trying to look into that, many, many more, it's like a house of cards, many, many more deceptions fall. And you realize like history's fabricated and there's just so many things that aren't true. So I, as a man, 43 years old, was very anxious about what it even meant. And I was trying to tell her, oh, look, this is a lie. Look at this freaky satanic crap. And I was coming off like really freaked out, and it was freaking her out. So
right.
I realized quite quickly I needed to ask for her trust, ask for some time. And I went on like a 5-month just study. I just studied for what was true and what was right, and didn't tell her anything. And then throughout that process, I said to her, because I was telling her like, this is valuable, what I'm doing, this time I'm spending, this is worthy because the truth is worthy. And there is value in seeking the truth, and we should always seek the truth. And she's a follower of the Messiah as well. And what finally helped her was when I said, listen, just for a second, pretend that you're the creator of all things. Just pretend that you made all this stuff outside and in us and our kids and everything. You know what I mean? If you designed a world for humans to live in, and it's perfect, perfectly balanced, it has seasons, it's just harmonious, nature is amazing and beautiful, and there was an evil force, let's say Satan or darkness or whatever, took what you made as like a masterpiece, an art piece, and twisted it and inverted it into this ball and this heliocentric story, how would that make you feel? And she's like, oh, I never thought about it that way. I said, because babe, I'm telling you the truth. The heliocentric lie is exactly that. It's an inversion of what's actually true. Here, let's look in the Bible. And we went through Genesis slowly, where, there was day and night cycles, days before the sun and the moon were in place, and how many different times it says that the earth is on a foundation, is fixed, and shall not be moved. And the long story short is, as I chilled out, studied on my own, brought it in a very slow way to her, because I definitely had to slow roll this thing. She's like, well, wait a minute. I believe what the word says over what man has ever said. And she's now a biblical believer, biblical cosmology believer. And I feel like it's a great success to have somebody that into the world with their mind, not in a bad way. But you hear all the time married couples are divided on this topic and even divorce over flat earth. And my wife's like, I trust you as a spiritual leader of our home. I trust the word. And yeah, that stuff's nonsense. What is all this fakery?
That's a good story. It's uplifting, and as you mentioned, I mean, my situation was the opposite. My marriage was the opposite. I found myself in a similar situation, and it was one of the factors led to the dissolution of my marriage. Not just about the cosmology; that it's just a small part of it. Just my mind for truth, and her mind for the safety and consensus of the narrative. Now, I didn't have children with her, so I'm wondering if the bond with your children helped you to work through this. I'm wondering if there were no children involved, if you each would have had the same desire to work through the issue. But I'm glad things kind of went the way it did. Do you mind if I ask what type of physician your wife is?
Yes, she practices family medicine and sports medicine, but she's an osteopathic physician, so she's a DO, which
She's a DO, right?
I mean, if the audience doesn't know, anyone that goes to med school to become a doctor usually just gets an MD and rocks and rolls, but she did additional training for the skeletal system, the muscular system, and the lymphatic system. So if you think about MD versus DO, a DO is more bent towards homeopathic, kind of like holistic ways of healing. So if Z came in and was like, man, doc, my shoulder's jacked, rather than her thinking, oh, let me give you a cortisone shot, let me see what I can do with like a prescription, she's like, well, let me feel that. And she'll go and she'll touch the tissue and she'll say, okay, resist this way, let go, push, let go. And she'll try to basically coerce the body in any of these systems to get back in alignment and in place so that the body can heal itself before going to any of the the big pharma stuff.
Yeah, and just know anybody out there, DO is a physician. MD is not the only doctoral level to be considered a physician. A DO is the other one. They're the two physicians, or DOs and MDs. And you're correct. The DO, the training is the mindset in the training is different. There's different philosophy towards medicine, and you explained it quite well. So I like that, man.
Thanks,
I like
man.
it.
Yeah, we did acupuncture training as well, which was really cool. I'm on a journey, man. I know that I'm a Bible believer, but waking up to a lot of these truths, like this is just a little side story. I had no idea how judgmental I was as a Christian. I don't even really like that. I don't really even like to claim that I'm a Christian, like the Christian religion, because I think that quite a bit of churches, the 5013C thing, it's really twisted as well, because what a follower of the Messiah should be interested in, to me, is bringing glory to the Creator, making him smile, and operating in and through love, and kind of holding the fruits of the Spirit high. Like, I want to operate in and through peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and self-control. If I can do all these things and operate in that way, it's not like go to church every single Sunday and I'm better than you, and judgment, oh, you cuss or whatever. But when I found out that like the earth is flat and we've been lied to about everything, I started talking to people on Discord a lot, and people would say things like, well, I think aliens seeded us here, or that there is no God, that we all are here by accident. And I found myself being a lot more quiet and listening more to what people were saying, and almost reverting back to that kid in high school that just accepted people where they are today, because none of us are done seeking. Like, none of us are finished. We're not finished exploring. So why am I going to harshly judge somebody for where they are today if I already know, I left brokenness and depravity and porn and just disease and destructive mind. I had a depraved mind before I surrendered to the Messiah. And then it took 3.5 years to process and clean up and get get to be where I was a healthy person before I met my wife, and now I've got 10 years with her. I'm a totally different person now. Yeah, I'm kind of rambling. I forgot what I was going to tell you. Sorry.
That's all right, man. It's good stuff. I'm trying to pull the link up to your channel, but my computer's acting weird.
I still need to start that one, bro. I mean, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get OBS. I'm going to have people on. I'm going to do a lot of interviews, kind of like just chatting like we're chatting now with a bunch of people, giving them a platform, talking about, True Earth, but it hadn't started up yet.
Cool. Yeah. So, and I know you said you're going to change it, but it's RunBostonBear, right? Like at RunBostonBear.
YouTube.com/@RunBostonBear. And I may leave it that way. Just a lot of people know me as RunBostonBear. So we'll see.
Gotcha. Cool, man. I appreciate you coming up, man, and sharing your story. It's one of the things I like about this platform and these communities is this type of thing where we can have open discussions. Let me ask you this. Do you think these open discussions are in jeopardy at some point? Do you think there will be greater curtailing of this information through censorship and otherwise? Or do you think they're going to let us keep talking about some of these things?
It's an interesting thought because, Telegram and Discord and what you're doing here is really stoking the fire of people digging into the truth and like the actual truth of reality and truth of us, like who we really are as human beings. They want us powerless. They don't want us to know the deeper things of what makes us tick. They want us programmed. So, I know they're never going to do away with cell phones or internet. They're always going to have us addicted to the black screens. But this sort of freedom of speech, I have a feeling that this little time we're living in right now is a very sacred thing that we're having. And I hope they don't alleviate it or eliminate it. But I think if they wanted to, they could AI crush every channel that has ever spoken truth. That's why I'm downloading tons of videos and content on an external hard drive, just because if it all just went away, all these like extremely, I don't want to say woke because that's like been bastardized, but people who are really hungry for the truth and want to do things like what you're doing, man, I'm downloading it because I don't know if it's going to be there tomorrow. I hope it is.
Right. That's a good point. A lot of that, I'm dealing with that myself now, is how much do I want to hold on to the stuff? How much am I realizing that this is a spiritual battle to let go of things? I'm trying to find the balance. It's one of the reasons why I come here each morning and do this show, is because I'm not sure how much longer we're going to be able to do this. So I don't want to wait any longer. And part of me is the same thing. Like I wanted to come up with let's call it a true cosmology encyclopedia, because all the things that you and I are aware of, see, we have an understanding. People don't have to agree with us, but it doesn't take away the fact that you, RunBostonBear, I, and others like us, we have an idea, we have an understanding that we have, and we're participating in information that is vitally important to humanity and that is being occulted and being hidden. So I have a strong desire to, like you said, preserve this information in a systematic way, so it doesn't just go bye-bye when they decide to hit the button and wipe it all away. We thought the internet was going to bring a golden age of information technology. It was the complete opposite. It made book burning much easier because now you just get all the information in digital format. You create the AI algorithms to handle it, and you could just wipe it away. You can change it. You can alter it to the point where what's going to happen when there's no hard copies of the Bible yet, and you could just change it. It's the same thing they could do with any information. Once you centralize and digitize the information, you can then control that information. The more centralized we become, the more we are susceptible for top-down control. You recognize it, I recognize, but here's where I am with it, RunBostonBear. I've put it over to the Great Spirit. I said, this isn't my battle. I'm going to do what I can within the earthly limits that I have in this body, in this mind, in this brain that I have to work with in this reality. Now I'm going to leave the rest up to the creator, whoever, the creator of spirit, God, whatever you want to put it. I'll leave it up to them. If they want this information to be passed on, because you're like me, I don't want the rest of humanity to continue under the same deception that we've continued from. Whatever it is inside of you is inside me, it's inside others like us.
Mm-hmm.
We see a deception, we resonate towards truth. They say the truth, the way, and the life. What could be more true than the reality that you live in? If they're telling you that your reality is something that you believe or accept as other, it is our duty. We are duty bound through morality to speak what we feel is true. And I agree with you. It's only a matter of time before they scrub this information more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be left being more of the crazy guys, because what's happening is they're going to keep going. They're going to keep going with the space presentation. They're going to keep going to the moon, quote unquote, going to Mars. They're going to keep sending astronauts up. And we're going to continue to look increasingly more foolish to this pop culture, because they're just going to double, triple, and quadruple down on the illusion, the delusion, the lie, and the deception. We're going to hold to what we conceive of as truth. We're going to look increasingly more crazy. And guess what, Boston Bear? That New Testament told us that this is exactly the way it was going to be. It didn't say it was going to be easy. It said it was going to be the opposite.
Yeah.
That's what I keep telling my listeners. There is a consequence to truth. Don't think it's all roses. Don't think your reward will be here in this world. Your reward, your treasure is not to be built here. Your treasure is in the kingdom. You want to focus on something, focus that. Because if you want to resonate with truth, there's going to be particular consequences. Go ahead, floor's open.
Oh man, I had a bunch of thoughts. I mean, I was listening for sure. One thing was, I like how you said that, the Great Spirit, or, basically whoever God is, because the world and even the religions want us, the religions don't want us divided and arguing, but it just seems when you watch them, they argue and they fight over the doctrines, or over what does it mean, the interpretations of the scripture, your personal walk, which way are you walking? Are you not walking right? And so, Christians may not, I say I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm a follower of the Messiah. That's what I want to do. It's what I'm going to do, because I've got a 14-year history where I surrendered to the Messiah. And I feel like I got put on a path where I was here, like I was operating in depravity, and I got put on a path where it pivoted, and now it's brought, I'm not preaching that if you surrender to the Messiah, your life's going to be rosy, or you're going to have a beautiful wife or wonderful kids. I'm not a prosperity gospel preacher, not at all. But I'm just saying, personally, when I surrendered, I have now a 14-year history of fruits actually coming, good fruits within myself, and that I can see my children and all this stuff. So I'm just not going to change the path I'm on, because I don't see a reason to. But I also believe that if you are living and operating in and through love, in how you carry yourself and how you treat your best friends, your family, or even your enemies, and you do the fruits of the Spirit, I think that whoever or whatever the Creator actually is going to be proud of you for going in that direction, and humbly, like, basically saying, whoever you are, self, you be quiet, self, you be still, you be quiet. I'm going to let the Creator show me how to love people, because I truly believe whoever made this place that we get to walk around in, if you ask the Creator to show you how to love people the way that He would have you do it, you'll get that answer, and you'll be a more loving person in a way that actually makes a change and a difference, a positive difference in people's lives. Another thought that I had was, oh shoot, you said so much good gravy, and I was just like, my mind was popping off on some different stuff, but I forgot. That's the only thing I could bring up.
Cool, man. All right, dude. It was good talking to you, man. Come back and visit us soon. We'll be looking forward to your progression here online. And much love, man.
Much love. Thanks for the chat. I know it was a long one. Y'all be at peace. Don't let the division, the divisiveness, the infighting, like, basically just take deep breaths, make sure you're hydrated, make sure you're eating clean food. Don't worry about what everybody's saying or thinking about you. Just be you. You're the only one that's out there. Be authentically you, and that's way better than being like scared. So there's nothing to be scared of. So keep rocking. Thanks, C. Talk to you later.
Much love.
Much love.